Welcome to Don't Know Much About Football,
the podcast where football meets finance and foreign policy.
And the commentary comes with culture. With your co-hosts, Carlo Marcello,
Sarah Hamilton,
and Ian Stoner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Don't Know Much About Football. We're excited to be here with you all. I'm here with Carlo, Sarah, and our special guest, Luke.
Hello,
Glad to be here with all of you.
Back. Yeah,
it's been too long since we have been in our podcasting mode together.
It's a lot of holiday time, and it's great to be back on the pod with the three of you. And so, just grateful to Luke for being able to make time to join us today and do what we love, talk about football fandom.
Fantastic. It's going to be a great conversation and a great year of football and conversations. So let's get into it. Carla, do you want to introduce our guest and set up the conversation?
Sure. So we've got Luke Clip with us. Luke and I actually, we do know each other here in the LA area. One of our other guests on the show was also just like recommending like Luke's great. Also like wanted to push the LAFC vibe on us on the pod. Okay, Christopher, which I get. So yes, we're here to talk about it. Like I'll talk about my Galaxy support. You know, we can do that during the pod. Luke has been the former president of the Pride Republic, which is the LGBTQ supporters group of LAFC, and he's the founder and co-host of LGBTFC, the podcast covering the intersection of the LGBTQ community and the beautiful game, A Story at a Time. Strikingly similar to part of our mission here at Don't Know Much About Football.
We might have been inspired through the ether, if not directly.
That's right. But Luke, please say hello. It's great to see you.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on. Thanks so much for doing this. You know, you talk about a story at a time. To me, one of the most compelling things about being a supporter in the beautiful game is the people I get to meet, the relationships I get to build, stuff that we've done with the podcast, the stuff that I've done with Pride Republic. One of the things that drew me to LAFC a decade ago when we first got active and involved with them was that they're all about shoulder to shoulder and building community. And that has really just sort of driven my sports fandom to a whole new level.
I love it. I can relate. I love, for those of you who are following us on YouTube, which you can, you'll see Luke's got a great slideshow of just like great memories of football fandom with, his partner, friends, the community. It's super fun to see. And, I don't know, football pictures always make me really happy. But Luke, there's so much to be able to get into with you. You've traveled to watch football, I'll say, quote, all over the world, and obviously you're very active here as an LAFC supporter for a long time. You've got a podcast that you've got as well. But for all those things, like, what is it that drew you into football? Like, was there like a first moment or a person that introduced you, or a sporting event? Like, just quickly tell us how you came to the beautiful game so we can jump to these other interesting bits.
Yeah, I've always loved soccer. I don't know why. And I, grew up knowing it as soccer growing up in the Midwest and loved watching the World Cup, which was one of the only times we could ever really get to see it on local stations living in the Detroit area. It wasn't like something that was, we didn't have streaming back then. We didn't, all these different cable networks, et cetera. Like Premier League was like this. Premier League didn't even exist at the time. So, for me, it was something that I loved. I wanted to play. I played for a couple of years, and then they had cuts, and I was cut. And so,
shoot.
Yeah, I know, darn. And
what age were you? What age was that?
Boy, I want to say I was 11 or 12.
Okay.
So I learned at a young age that I wasn't good enough to play the beautiful game. It's okay. It didn't quell my desire to actually play. It didn't quell my interest in the sport, but it definitely told me that it probably wasn't a thing for me to pursue if I had any dreams of doing it well. But in any case, I still loved the game. And there was also this other piece for me, which we'll get into, I'm sure, as well, about being gay and how, as I started realizing that about myself, team sports were kind of scary. Right? Team sports, you had like the locker room, you had sort of the bro-y culture. And I think that's changed a little bit over the years since then, but it was definitely a thing where like, if you were queer, Like queer was like already like a slur, but if you were gay, like it was bad. Like you did not want to be in most places. And where I was growing up in the Midwest, definitely not a place where it was particularly welcoming. So I went and played tennis. So I played tennis, and I played tennis well, all the way through my senior year of high school. I did track and field a little bit, but like soccer was just not a sport that I was going to be able to play. But it's something I've always loved, and so it's something I followed closely. I cared about, and when I moved to LA to be with my right behind me here, my then boyfriend, now husband, I was actually very excited because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm finally going to be in a city which has an MLS team, a Galaxy. I was so excited to go to a Galaxy game. And Carla, you're going to hate me. You're going to hate me, man. I was so excited to go to a Galaxy game. And we went. And it took me 2.5 hours to get to the game. An hour of that spent waiting in the line for the parking lot. We walked into the game in the 60th minute. It was 1-1. No more goals were scored. The game, the stadium was half full. I had brought friends with me who were just like miserable. I was miserable. So I was like, this isn't fun. I was like, this isn't fun. But now they had my information because I had bought those tickets, Carlo.
That's
so
right.
I kept getting calls. Don't you want to come to the Galaxy game? Don't you want a Galaxy ticket package?
It's very aggressive.
And I was like, look, if you're having a Pride game, let me know. So they were like, oh. So they called me about a Pride game. And I was like, yeah. And I got a whole group of friends to go, right?
Amazing.
And it was probably one of the most unsafe events that I felt.
No.
I was like, people didn't want the little Pride things. Like the stadium was like half full. It was kind of boring. There wasn't really like, they put a couple things up there like on the screen about Pride and people were like booing about it. And I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
So I just kind of stopped. And whenever they would call me again to like come back to a game, I'd be like, look, move your stadium. You're AEG. You've got money.
Yeah.
Move your stadium somewhere that's not an hour drive for me to get from wherever. And they were like,
it's in Carson, California.
They're like, ha, 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 that's very funny, right? Like, and I'm like, okay. But then this club comes along and they announced, we're building our stadium in Exposition Park. We're all about being in the heart of LA. We are going to embrace all of Los Angeles. I was like, that's cool. I want to check that out. And so my husband and I signed up as members very early. We were like in the low hundreds of a membership number. There's now tens of thousands. And I had no idea. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was like, this will be fun. We'll just go to some games. See all these freaking photos behind me?
Yes.
These are all since then, right? Like going to Minneapolis to watch a Major League Soccer game, going to Feyenoord in Rotterdam to watch a Eredivisie match, getting into go see a Palace game or Tottenham, or like all this is because we made that decision to become members a decade ago of LAFC, and all the way they just gradually pulled us in, and the way I just felt fully embraced by this community and just ran with it.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
No offense to Galaxy.
I mean, we did win the title recently.
I know.
A bad season. And it's true. Carson, California, where the StubHub Center isn't that exciting of a place. And I go to LAFC matches because, it's entertaining and a lot of friends are there, obviously. And so, that park is very fun and very beautiful, of course. I'm wondering about, you've had a chance to like go to a bunch of these stadiums. Obviously, StubHub at Carson, maybe not the top stadium. Maybe like, you spend a lot of time at LAFC. Maybe what about the other stadiums you've been to? Like I've not been to Feyenoord Stadium. I haven't been to any of the London stadiums. Like, like what do you like about those places? I mean, you go to stadiums everywhere. Like what do you like about these stadiums?
So I'm happy to share some thoughts on this because my brain's like popping right now. So like I'll just say our most recent was going to Hampton Park in Glasgow, and that was a blast. Mostly because we won. Scotland beat Belarus 2-1. It was kind of a rough game.
Talk about that.
Needed to win by more than 2-1. But, people were kind of upset about that, but it was so much fun. Honestly, that was one of the rare moments where I was like almost weeping at the start of a match.
Wow.
We'll get back to it. But, in the US, I I think MLS has done a pretty decent job in terms of the stadium environment, and many of their stadiums were like Minnesota. Like, I grew up in the Midwest. If you had told me that there'd be a soccer team in Minnesota with that kind of fan base, we're like, what? No way, right? Like, it just never seemed like American football, 100%. Football, like, I didn't know. Nashville is cool. I've been to 2 games at Nashville now.
Their stadium's
they've
nice.
got a good vibe. Their stadium's beautiful.
Yeah.
Not fun on a July night when it is 85 to 90 degrees and humid. That's not fun.
Meh.
Atlanta.
It's only 90
Come on,
minutes.
embrace
It's
your
not like it's a
Midwestern
4-hour
roots and the humidity.
Look.
slog.
That's why we go inside in the air conditioning. Atlanta, fine. Like, good for them. Good for Atlanta. But like, when you say Feyenoord, like, here's what I'll say about going to the 2 match. I went to Ajax and Feyenoord in the Netherlands. Netherlands to me is like this liberal place, this liberal bastion, right? As a gay man, like, I associate it with like freedom of being able to be myself publicly. And I was going to wear this rainbow LA hat when I went to the Feyenoord match, because I was meeting up with someone there who's involved with the Rosa Kameraden, which is their LGBT supporters club for Feyenoord. And I sent her a photo saying, here's what I'm wearing. And she immediately responded, don't wear that. You'll be at risk for like physical safety.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that sucks.
and I can see why she felt that way. And they've actually dealt with death threats. It's like their supporters culture in the Netherlands, in the Eredivisie, apparently is very, very pro-y masculine, like hyper masculine in a way that is sort of a cultural break from a lot of sort of more standard cultural norms in the Netherlands, which is really kind of difficult to consider.
The Dutch, when they travel internationally, are known for being fun and dancing and like, are they two different populations, or do the broy sort of hooligans stay at home and the fun people travel, or
they're still there? They're still there.
Okay.
I think it's a little different when it's national versus the clubs.
Oh yeah,
right. So like, one of the games that I went to this year, actually in Nashville, was when LAFC were playing in the Club World Cup, because we're one of the top clubs in the world, Carlo. And so we were at the Club World Cup and we lost to this team from Tunisia. I was there for that. But like, having been to national team games where it's Scotland versus Belarus or France versus Spain, versus like a international tournament where it's the clubs, right? Like, if this was LAFC versus I don't remember the name of the club from Tunisia. I think that's actually really cool, because you get the supporters culture for that club that is so grounded in like that community. It's different. It's not like this. Like, there's this thing that when it's the national thing, it's sort of like, yay, my country, which for some people means a lot. For other people, it's like, yeah. But like, your club that you like, it is brought down generation by generation. Like, you bleed for this club and you fight the one that's 2 miles down the road. Like, that is a different kind of energy. And I definitely felt that being in that game, even though there was only a few thousand people there. Like, just the amount of sort of passion around those individual clubs versus having been to a couple national team games where it's like definitely like, I care about my country, but also like, do I care a whole lot about this game with my country? Yeah, maybe. Scotland definitely did. That's for sure.
So tell me about this weeping, and
I'm assuming it was during Flower
I feel like we're related here because I've been crying a lot
Ian,
lately whenever I think about Scotland and our footballing.
It was the national anthem. It was the national anthem.
And so your most recent. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love any podcast that starts with bagpipes, as your last episode did. So thank you. And I just feel like there should be more bagpipes in football.
Ian, do you know how many times I had to try and record bagpipes to get just the right bagpipe on that? You would think it would be easy, but like, I would get background noise. I was just like, I had so many bagpipe recordings that I had to pick from to get just that right one.
You make a Spotify playlist.
Maybe we should use it for this episode too.
Yeah.
But like, it was a national, and it was 2 things with the national. One, it's been a difficult. I mean, I will just say personally, it's been difficult the last year. I think for a number of people to feel patriotic. for many reasons. And I've definitely struggled with that myself whenever, we have the national anthem before every LAFC match. I'm just sort of like, I feel it. I feel it in my bones thinking about the people for whom this doesn't feel safe. And I'm often one of them. Not always, but often.
Yeah.
And so contrast that to this experience in Scotland. And then also just the sheer joy in it of people, like the whole stadium just like belting this song out. And I didn't know the song, but I'm singing it and I just was getting so emotional. I'm like, what?
Wow.
This is not my national anthem. Why am I getting emotional about Scotland's national anthem? Like, it doesn't make, but there was just this joy. And it was just unbridled joy. And I freaking loved it. I freaking loved it.
I'm with you. So let's talk about the match, or was like your experience of football in Scotland. Aside from the anthem, I mean, Hampden Park is a nice big stadium. There was obviously later the match where we actually qualified.
Yeah,
I've actually never been to Hampden Park,
but see that one.
No, but you saw you were there for the journey, so you're ahead of me on this in terms of where you've been. But were you in pubs after? What kind of experiences did you have, or what things are different in terms of the sort of, you're not spending the time traveling to get to Hampden Park? I assume that you have in LA for certain stadiums, but
for certain stadiums that shall remain nameless,
like Galaxy.
We took the train. We were staying in Glasgow for a week.
Mm-hmm.
So we just like walked over to the train station, and there was this queue that went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then around outside the building. I mean, it was all very well organized, and they had multiple extra trains, literally just going back and forth the several stops between the station for the stadium and the downtown main station. So that was very easy. And honestly, like walking up, like here's my thing: is I didn't know. I wanted to get something from the game, but I didn't know what was being sold inside the stadium versus outside the stadium. And we've had this problem, where we didn't realize. Actually, I'm now remembering. We went to a Real Madrid game years ago, and we were like, oh, we'll just get like, they're all like outside the stadium. There's all these vendors with food and alcohol and scarves, whatever. And I was like, oh, we'll just go in and get it when we go into the stadium. Like, I'm so used to BMO Stadium, where you can walk around the whole stadium. There's all these different places to buy stuff. You can go into the team store, blah, blah, blah. And we walked into Bernabeu, and it was literally just our one section was all we had access to. And it was like, you could get a hot dog and some popcorn and a soda. And like, that was it. I was like, what? And we were in the stadium like an hour early. And I was like, and the stadium was empty because everyone else freaking knew. Well, we obviously didn't, which was, you don't go in the stadium early. You just go in 10 minutes before the kickoff or whatever. And get to your seat. Same kind of experience. We went to Tottenham, where like we got beers right before kickoff, and we're walking to our seats, and they're like, nope, you cannot go off the concourse into your seats with your beer. I was like, well, what? So they're like downing a beer. And that's the whole reason, like, everyone's like, honestly, I think that's part of the reason that the Premier League, like, they're all sort of sitting on their hands, or sitting up, like, paying attention to the match, because they're not drinking. They're not like having a casual beer like we do. We're sort of used to this, like going to like a baseball game.
Not
like,
trying to wave down
there's
the guy
no
with the
vendors.
peanuts and the.
There's no vendors, right? You're just like, you're in it. And then as soon as that halftime whistle, it's like, go get your drink now, because you got 15 minutes. And then to get back to your, which is such like a strange experience for me from the U.S. side of things. So we didn't know going to Hampton, like, what was, so I really wanted a scarf. And there were all these vendors selling scarves. I was like, no, I'm not going to get one of these little vendors outside. I'm going to get a scarf in the stadium. Well, guess what? Could not buy in the stadium a scarf.
So you get one after?
No. So here's the thing. I figured I'm going to get a scarf at the like Scottish football store or something, or like, and that didn't exist. Like I went looking for it for days, like trying to find. So we ended up getting like a secondhand scarf at some little like market in Glasgow, which was fine. But like, I really wanted some for my friend who's Scottish to like be like, here's but all these scarves at the game were like Scotland versus Belarus on this day, and I was like, but they weren't here for it. Like, that's for me. Like, I want them to have just a Scotland scarf with the crest, with the
room for
thistles
improvement on the
and-
commercialization strategy here.
Yeah.
We'll take a note of that.
Maybe with the World Cup. I mean, they're coming.
Well, the
Adidas
Scots won't be in LA.
they're the provider, so that's the hopefully they've been slowly trickling things out for all of their sides. So keep an eye out on the Adidas website.
I was going to ask you, so you have been a podcaster longer than we have, and been talking about football in that context longer than we have. I'm just curious, talk to us about what that's been like, how that's gone, kind of the community that the listeners and the guests that you've had on. Give us a sense of the show, and then kind of what it's been like as somebody who's been on your end of the mic for a number of years now.
So, thank you. I started out on this journey of podcasting years ago because I really wanted to tell the story of the LGBTQ community in sports. And soccer was sort of the avenue. And I had some friends who were like, wow, that's very niche. I was like, yeah, well, okay. But I have to have a niche somewhere. Like, I can't just be general.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of folks who I know with LAFC who are queer identified supporters of the club through Pride Republic and other ways. So figured let's get some of those folks on. And then I would try and find other people who are supporters of other clubs as LAFC played there over the course of the season.
Oh, cool.
And so we had people on who were supporters of Portland Timbers, and Seattle Sounders, and Vancouver Whitecaps, and Nashville, Minnesota, and Dallas, Colorado, and other MLS clubs all around. And finding them was a little bit of a trick because the people aren't always out there like, I am a queer supporter of, so you sort of have to figure out because we really wanted to have people who identify as LGBTQ, not just allies, but people who are themselves LGBTQ identified supporters of these clubs, which doesn't always come easy to find. And then when we had the World Cup 4 years ago in the winter, and we had that couple months break there with the World Cup, I was like, well, let's do some stuff around the World Cup. So we had some people who were supporters of England and trying to go off. With the Women's World Cup, we had supporters of Ireland and the Netherlands and a couple of other places. So we had good contacts with folks from around the world and other parts of the world. It's an English language podcast. So that was something that I wasn't going to necessarily find supporters in some other parts of the world who would have liked to have had on. We actually have done a couple. I say it's English language. We've done a couple in Spanish. Even though I only speak a little bit of Spanish, but my co-host Daisy had on other co-hosts with her, and they did the whole episodes in Spanish, and then I edited them. Fun to edit when you don't know what's actually being said. Luke, I'm like, what? Yeah, that was fun. But I think one thing that's been cool about it is we've done a couple overseas episodes where I was like, I'm going to do an episode while we're traveling, and so. When we went to Tottenham, we went to West Ham, I found supporters, interviewed them literally just on my phone.
Cool.
Yeah. And also just recently, our most recent episode when we were in Scotland, I interviewed Xander Murray, who was a couple years ago sort of big in the news because he was a professional footballer who came out while he was still playing professionally in the Scottish leagues. And so we had him. That was sort of a dream of mine to interview Xander. So we finally got to actually sit down with him and talk with him in person, which was just an absolute joy. But part of that has come out of that for me is the relationships. The people, I still stay in touch with most of these folks. So having these relationships that we built over the years has been just this thing I never would have expected to come out of doing this podcast. And then on the flip side, some of the opportunities we've gotten from it. So we've had Xander Murray on, we had Ilie Sanchez on a couple years ago to talk about his experience as a professional footballer with LAFC, his thoughts and sort of why players don't come out, other things that he shared on that as well. And one of our other episodes we had on Will Ferrell, who's one of the owners of LAFC, and his friend who, why am I blanking on her name? Oh my gosh!
So that they did the documentary together, the Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah. What is that called? Hold on.
Harper Steele.
Harper. Yeah.
Yes. So we had on Will Ferrell. We had Will Ferrell and Harper Steele.
That's cool.
They shared about their experience of putting together the documentary. Honestly, I was just blown away to have those two people on my Zoom screen on my computer, right? As I'm
No
like
kidding.
chat with them about
Yeah.
this thing
For
they
sure.
did. Very, very special experience. So there's been all kinds of just kind of things I never would have expected that have come out of doing this podcast.
That's very
What is
cool.
it? What is it you think about? What's like I mean, I guess it's football that is bringing all these people together, including us. I mean, but like, is there some other secret sauce going on where we're, same with us, and as we build our community through guests and listeners, and just in attending matches and meeting people like wherever, you fly your football flag and like other people recognize you, and then you just like make friends. What? Why does that happen, Luke?
So I think there's some intentionality about the culture building within the beautiful game that I've not experienced in other sports. Like my experience of going like like a USC football game. I went to the University of Michigan as an undergrad. I've been to many Michigan
Go Blue.
football games. Thank you. You maybe have a couple of friends that you go with, but then that's your crew, right? Like it's not like
Yeah.
this is different when where we've got these groups of people identified as we're part of these different supporter groups, and then we spend time together at the tailgate. We spend time together at watch parties. Like there's these relationships that we build through this that are different than I've experienced in being a fan of, like even going into Dodger games. Like I get my group together, but I'm not talking to the people who are the row behind me or the row in front of me, or
Yeah.
if anything, I'm kind of wishing they would maybe like let me enjoy my game, without like
Just
telling
don't
them to
shut
shit
up
on me or something, right?
Yeah.
It's just different. Like
Right.
we bought our tickets to LAFC, which we have season tickets, front row, southwest corner, and like oftentimes the camera picks us up. So I've often been on the jumbotron, like looking like an idiot. I actually have a little gif of me like screaming and waving my scarf in the air. But like when we did that, it was actually I didn't want to be in the north end. I was very intentional. Like those are the loud people. I want to be as far away from the loud people as I can because I want to sit and enjoy my game in peace. Right? Like I'm going to do that. Well, I am anything but quiet now. And I've been in the north end a number of times. I've been learning the chants, like all the, I've actually, been like learning Spanish because I care about being able to understand the language of so many of our supporters. That's their home language. I want to know what I'm singing when I'm singing it. Like, it just like, it has opened up all kinds of different ideas and spaces for me I never would have fathomed.
That's amazing.
It's really
That's awesome.
interesting. So I want to pull on that thread a little bit, but in a different way, because you've been to a lot of international matches, but you've been to a match in the Olympics. So the Olympics is a totally different beast, right? Like I've not been to a summer games. I've been to a winter games, but that kind of football atmosphere where people talk to one another and it's very communal, especially at a winter games because it's so damn cold. But I'm curious to know, you've been, you saw a Scotland national team match. You've been all over Europe. It's amazing. Talk to us about the Olympics and what that was like. And could you find any swag within the stadium?
So swag would have been like France scarf, right? Like, no, there really wasn't in the stadium. There was, and everything was pre-approved Olympic vendors only, right? So like it's like the Olympic Games have a very like the Olympic International Olympic Committee, the local organizing committee all have to apply very specific rules. There wasn't like So like even everything within like the certain perimeter of the stadium was all very prescribed. So not really. It wasn't really that kind of experience. It was the gold medal final in the men's, which is under 23, as you said. It's not like it's a little different than if you just had like all the best players from all the countries, like the World Cup. And it was France versus Spain. So two countries that already don't like each other very much. And you could pick out the Spanish supporters in the crowd because they were the only ones not wearing blue. And which was in that stadium, it was the Parc des Princes in Paris, where PSG play. In that stadium, I think it holds like 55 or 60,000. There were maybe 1,000 Spanish supporters.
That's
And
wild.
that game, France scored early, right? France scored early, went up 1-0. And then in the span of like 10 minutes, from like the 25th to 35th minute, Spain scored 3 goals. It's like, boop, 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 and it was just like, whoa, we were rocked, right? Like France was like, oh, crap. And then France got one back in the 85th on a penalty. And then one more goal in like stoppage in 90th plus whatever. So that it went to extra time.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was a crazy game. They ended up winning it like at the very tail end, but it was just one of these wild experiences. It definitely didn't have the same kind of like hooliganism that I would have expected for a national team experience. But I think that's partly because it wasn't like all the players that you're used to seeing
Right.
at like, a professional footballing event.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if those
But
two
it was
played
a
in
lot
the
of fun.
World Cup, it will be totally different.
I will say, the person sitting next to me was from Chicago, and then he had his daughter there, and they were like, "This is our first soccer game ever," and I'm like, "Are
No
you
way.
kidding me?"
My gosh.
He was like,
Why
"Yeah,
would you
we're
do-
just here. We're just here for the Olympics this week, and we're just going to stuff." And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like,
Amazing.
your
Amazing.
daughter, who's like, I mean, she's probably 10 years old. I don't know. Like, her first men's soccer game ever is the gold medal match in
Medal
Paris.
match. Right.
France versus Spain. Okay,
Right.
sure.
It's not all like this, kid.
No, no.
But that's a cool experience.
I mean, some of the games
It
are
sounds like
like,
it was an interesting match.
yeah. Well, some of the games are like the one that I've seen scroll through my photos here, where my husband and I are, let's call it like co-owners, but there's like 8,500 owners around the world of the Caledonian Braves, like the little Scottish football club.
Yes. We know
Let's talk
about
about
that.
that.
And we went
know
to the
about them.
Caledonian Braves when we were out in Scotland in October, and it was us and maybe 50 people. And you heard every curse, you heard every yell. It was like you are in it. The crowd, when they would yell, like that ref heard what they were yelling. It was great. It was very different than being with 60,000 French people at the gold medal final at the Parc des Princes.
So where is this club? Were you at their home grounds, or was it an away game?
It was a home game, but not at their home grounds, because there was some like plumbing work being done at their home grounds. So, but apparently it was a good proper stadium from what I've heard, unlike their home grounds, which is like a couple bleachers. But yeah, their whole like revenue model was to get a bunch of people around the world to sign up to be supporters or to be owners. And so we had, a couple of years ago, we paid the ownership fee or whatever, and we became owners. And so when we went, they like interviewed us after the game. We won the game. That was good. It's
That is good.
random, but it
You
was
saw
fun.
some goals.
It's
Good.
fun.
We saw some goals. Yeah, we did.
Always important.
We saw red
Saw your
card.
investment firsthand.
A
You
red
know, as
card,
owners,
yeah.
did you walk out feeling like, yes, I'm very proud of this?
Yes, felt very proud. I was like, I want to organize the Los Angeles owners, because there's apparently like 50, 60 of us. I want to get us watching games at our, on our big screen TV, watching some away or whatever, watching some matches, as they're taking place in Scotland at whatever
Be
hour
fun.
in the morning.
How would you describe the state of play as opposed to the fans? Like, was it enjoyable football? Was it
Oh, it's
Sunday
enjoyable.
league
obviously not, it's not
football,
going to be up to
sure.
Premier League standards, but
Yeah, no, this was not Premier League football. It was fun. It was fun to watch. Players were entertaining to watch. I mean, it was a good match. It was, we actually made it a point to extend our travel by a day so we could go to this, and I'm glad we did.
Amazing.
It was worth it.
Amazing.
And so where are they based?
They're just outside Glasgow, like, I don't know, 20 miles southeast of Glasgow. I don't know the name of it. They're all these little towns. I could find it on a map and tell you afterward, but I can't. I don't remember right now. But their name they're the Caledonian Braves FC, and apparently it's very controversial from what I heard from some other folks, because they're sort of an upstart club that's only been around a decade, and all these other clubs have been doing the good work for 100 plus years, and how dare this upstart club come in and act like they're better than everyone else. It's like, okay, not my
So they're
not
actually
my problem.
so just looked them up. They're from Motherwell, which is
Yes.
up near where I spent some of my earliest years in Carluke, and so it's a very working class community, kind of steel and coal traditionally,
Yeah.
decades ago.
We
more than
did go
today,
to
but
the we went to the Scottish Football Museum in hopes of finding a store to buy a scarf, by the way.
I love how it's just searching for the scarf, is the
They
plot
don't
driver.
they don't have a store there.
Scarf
How do
fail.
they not have a store at the Scottish Football Museum, which is in the ground floor of Hampton Park?
True. No, yeah.
Anyway, we did go there, which is the oldest football museum in the world, according to them. And there was a whole bunch in there about how football in Scotland sort of evolved around the coal mining industry, and how it really was sort of this sort of relief for the players, sort of the men who were in the mines all day long, to be able to just go around and kick the ball around, and what that represented culturally. Really appreciated just being able to sort of get that experience of seeing it and reading about it and learning more about that.
Can I switch gears? Because I wanted to ask about your husband. So just as rabid of a football fan as you know what I'm saying? Did you have to be like, no, you got to get into this, or like, the marriage is on this, like, or did he just come strong already being into football? Like, how is it that you two have been able, have so simpatico on that?
Let me tell you, my husband. So I went to the University of Michigan. My husband went to, as he will make sure to remind everyone, the Ohio State University.
No.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So while we both were sort of into college football, that has ruined every Thanksgiving weekend from the dawn of time for us, because every Thanksgiving weekend is when they play.
Wait, I'm sorry. Was that not a red flag for both of you when you were like, I went to Michigan? He's like, I went to Ohio State. You two just have to lean on this football. Okay, it's good to see you.
Love is love. Love is love. To be less prejudiced.
I don't know. It'd be like me marrying a Cardinals fan, or on the college level, someone who went to Syracuse. Like, that just couldn't happen. But anyway, good for you guys. I admire that you're not nearly as stubborn as I am.
So
about that.
Like we we have some challenges around sports, although we both love sports, right? And we've gone to Dodger games, we've gone to LA Kings games. His dad actually played for the Kings many years ago. So we've got stuff that we do, but like this was for us a thing to do together from the start, from the beginning, like coming in together as members from the ground up. A couple years before they even kicked a football in the field, it's actually been like this really cool thing that we get to do. That's us in like this beautiful game, this team LAFC. We also
LAFC
go to Angel
has
City.
saved your marriage, is what you're saying.
Wow, that was. I mean,
otherwise, it just there's no way it could have worked. There's clearly the.
I mean, I mean,
sorry, that's the headline in the tabloids.
Looks like there's other things that go well.
I mean, we were only married a couple of years when we decided to become members of LAFC. I was like, hey, should we do this thing? He's like, yeah, that's like fun. Why not? That'd be cool. And then we signed up, and then just like, woo. It's just become a whole journey, but it's something that we love to do when we travel to like see. Is there a game that we can go see? We've as I was just saying, like we have season tickets to Angel City as well, although they've been hard to watch. Will be my best way of putting it.
Yeah.
But
they have really good merch.
They have good merch. They've got a good brand.
Yeah.
The
they
brand
just gotta get better on the pitch.
Some of their players are cool as hell. Then other things I'm like, what are you doing? But in any case, I digress. So it's just been something that we just really love. That's something where we've gotten to sort of come in together at the same time in the same space around a sports thing. Where he grew up in LA, Kings and Dodgers are sort of natural to him in a way that I was sort of adopting it, and not really the same way. Like this has been something we've both come into together.
That's very cool. So we've talked a lot about different places that you've gone to see football matches, and all over the place, throughout the country, in Europe and other places. Rank the stadiums for me. What's your top? What's your bottom? And what's like, yeah, I'd go back there, or no, I'm glad I went, but not again.
So this is where I'm gonna make some enemies here. I think Premier League is overrated. Now that may not true be
in terms of the matches, or that may not be true for Liverpool. The stadia.
In terms of the stadium experience, that may not be true for Liverpool. Okay. But going to Tottenham, I'm like, there are 65,000 people in this incredible cathedral to the game. Why is this crowd so going to West Ham.
Ooh.
Spursy.
I have
Spursy.
lots of friends.
Christopher, are you listening?
I have lots of friends who are Spurs fans. I have lots of friends who are Spurs fans. I love them. But like, I was like, West Ham. I was like, you know, like it just
Really, West Ham, not a, you
And here's
know,
the
like
thing.
the
That's not
10th they got so
surprising.
bummed, nothing.
That's
I
not
think
no, that
I've
would have been
been-
Palace.
no, that's Palace, dude.
That's Palace.
Oh,
And we have been to Richmond, by the way. There's no stadium in Richmond, but we went to Richmond and got to see some of the places they filmed that show. So, but like, Palace is actually more fun because they've got like a little supporter section with a drum, and they're like, you know, they're like singing their hearts out.
yeah.
Real Madrid, boring AF. Oh my God. I was like, how are you Real Madrid? And I am
I know, they're
bored.
complainers.
Here's the thing. I think I'm
Yeah.
spoiled. I think I've been spoiled that my real getting into it experience has been BMO. And with the 3252 and the North End and the shoulder to shoulder and the supporters experience that I have there, I've been spoiled. Now, that's not to say it's the best. I don't know that I would necessarily rank it as the best, but I've definitely been spoiled by having what I think from day one has been an intentional approach about creating community, not just building a brand, but creating a community that extends beyond just what happens on game day, beyond just
Yeah.
what happens over the course of the season. You know, I'm
Yeah.
still communicating with all these folks in the off season. It's still a part of my life, and I can't wait to get back. I'm bummed that our first game is going to be at the Coliseum. Whatever, we'll be fine. There's going to be a bunch of people in pink shirts cheering for Messi. Whatever. There's also going to be a bunch of people
Yeah,
in
that's
white
right.
Those
jerseys
matches
cheering
are
for
fun.
Son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that, I think probably one of my best experiences though was actually Wrexham. Wrexham with their 12,000 fans, like
Yeah.
they go hardcore, and I was loving that. I was loving it.
That's cool. The Messi experience is cool, by the way. Like, I don't know if you've had that, if Inter Miami, if you've been to a
Yeah.
match when you play them,
I-
it's crazy.
I prefer the Sunny experience now.
Oh, look at this guy, loyal.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. We do like our Sonny.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's how can you not like Sunny?
What I think you're saying is really interesting. You know, I've had experiences in other places where it's both the stadium and the fan base, and it just doesn't work. I think you could be in the wrong place, but have the right people, and it would be amazing. It's hard to do it without the people. You know, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
how much your stadium cost or how beautiful it is or whatever.
Play.
And I'm wondering if, because one of the things we talk about on this show is the future of fandom in America, and whether that's American teams or watching games in America, or just people here who are looking around the world to see what the beautiful game can sort of do for them in their lives and their connections. That feels like something that's really important and that we are still figuring out. But obviously, there are places where it's working. I'm just curious on your thoughts on that. If you, I mean, we touched earlier on in the conversation on various places around the country that have it dialed in, and do you think it's like 20% of the clubs in the stadiums are just not getting it yet, or is it 20% that are doing it right, and where are we on that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately the incentive structure in Major League Soccer right now does not reward loyalty in the way that you get that experience when you follow a club in Europe. For instance, there are like Liverpool, like you have players in Liverpool that you would never imagine would get traded away, right? Like, and if they were, it would be like a drama that would lead up to it, and then like there's a sharp break, and then they're gone, right? Like MLS,
Yes.
you just never know from 1 month to the next. Is this player still going to be here, or are they just going to go away? Because the players don't sign with the clubs in Major League Soccer; they sign with the league, and then they're assigned to the club. So like they get traded around. It's like the parity and the way that there's the salary caps and all of that just kind of ruin, I think, the ability for clubs to really like build. They can build the supporter side of things, but to build the loyalty with the
Yeah.
one of our favorite players at LAFC, and he's got some issues or whatever, but it was Chicho Arango. And Chicho, people had just adored him. And then after like a year and a half or two, he was gone, right? Like he's gone. And like, this is not an uncommon experience in Major League Soccer. So I think that's part of the difficulty. Also, the incentive structure doesn't incentivize clubs really investing. Like you've got clubs like Colorado,
Yeah.
San Jose, Kansas City, whatever, that that are sort of middling, and there's no risk to middling. Now, I'm not making arguments for promotion relegation here. I'm just saying that there's no like real risk benefit structure that like
Yes.
you can do parity in the National Football League because there are billions of dollars sloshing around in that league, and there's a whole structure that is in place within the American sports culture that that people will stick with it even if there are ebbs and flows. It is very
Yeah.
hard to do that, I think, with a league that is as national as MLS, in a sport that is still really kind of building its growth or building its base in the US.
Agreed.
Because people will say, well, why would I watch this sort of mediocre product here if I can watch something overseas that's so much better?
Yeah.
I do think the alignment of the season, which they're switching up
Yes.
to align
Yes,
with the
yeah.
European schedule,
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yes, it is.
I think it'll help when
Yeah.
people can watch. They can watch MLS or European games in the morning and then the MLS games in the
Yes.
afternoon, and just sort of
Yeah.
that's sort of like your soccer experience versus now where it's like, I don't know when a game is going to be played. What like so some of that more sort of consistency, the consistency around the trades when those are happening, big trade like the the trade window in the summer versus the trading window in the winter, I think is important. I hope that they start to liberalize more the salary cap stuff, the team, how many players they can get on what they call the DP, the designated player, that sort of stuff where they just, people want to see quality on the pitch, and you can tell when you're not. And when someone like Messi can come in, he's 35 years old, and yes, he's incredible. But literally, he takes a team from last place to first place in the matter of 2 months. You're just like, okay, well, that just obviously means that the rest of the league is garbage. Like, it's hard to not look at it and just be sort of disappointed by like what that means for everything else. So I do think that is I think the switching the calendar, I think liberalizing the pay incentives and structures. But I would love to see more clubs really embracing their fan base more openly, really making that a part of their cultural experience or their overall experience. Some clubs have really kind of run with it. I think Seattle, Portland, LAFC do a really good job. I'll be interested to see what happens at NYCFC when they get in their new stadium. But even like I think other clubs in like USL are learning from what they're seeing and building really incredible bases like New Mexico United, Detroit City FC. Like you're seeing
New Mexico
these
United
USL,
is cool. Yeah.
right? They're doing really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And building soccer in a way that MLS is just not. They're not equipped to like go there yet because they're so sort of caught up in their we're MLS and we're the best kind of thing, and like not realizing like, no, you're actually getting your butts handed to you by folks that don't have the same like constraints on how they think about stuff, and they're getting able to do creative, interesting, fun things, and they're building fan bases in places and in ways that I never would have thought possible for this sport.
You see it too when, like Cincinnati, for instance, they were a USL team. They moved up to MLS and they brought with them a rabid fan base. They built a new stadium. They fill it all the time. Like it's cool. And what you saw in Nashville and in Minnesota, it's neat to see. And I think that newer franchises seem to be getting it right. And the USL is definitely, that's a really good point you make, because I think they experiment and they try things and they really want to bring the fans in, because if they don't have that revenue through the door, let's be honest, they're not going to exist. And they know that, and so they work it. Whereas I think your assessment of some of the more staid MLS clubs is spot on. Promotion relegation, there it is. That's what we need.
That's certainly something we need to do.
I don't want to get into that fight. There's no winning it.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's a lot of good stuff, and actually some new perspective as well, which I think is great to hear.
Yeah, Luke, thanks. So it's been great to have you on. I appreciate you sharing about your fandom, the way you go through the world and experience it, as an openly gay man with your husband, and enjoy football and build community and, see through the business side and all this kind of fun stuff. It's just been like such a fun conversation. Been terrific.
Thanks for having me on. I've had a blast.
That's a wrap for this episode of Don't Know Much About Football, the podcast for all fans, new and seasoned, who want to grow the sport and learn together.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and support us on Patreon. Your feedback and support grow our community.
If you're a part of a club, league, or fan community and want to be featured, reach out via our social media or our website at don'tknowmuchaboutfootball.com.
Thanks for joining our journey. Tune in next week for more passionate football stories.
Until then, keep the football spirit alive.